Hello, everybody. I apologize if I end up being hard to hear, hard to understand, any of that fun stuff. Today, I wasn't going to come live just because I have been having some issues with um, laryngitis, I guess you would call it. I don't know. But yes, um, there have been some issues with that. I am currently trying to find the live press conference because there was supposed to be a press conference at 5 o'clock or at 5:30. So we're gonna see. Um, let's see if I can find it. Ah, come on, come on. Um, let's see. See if Vinny happens to have it. Ooh, Loki. Sorry, my service dog is just being a bum. Don't see it. Um, Give me just a second, everyone. I apologize. I had to get the dog to stop being a butt. I don't really think that that's going to truly get him to stop being a butt, but you never know. Come on. I am looking at the Facebook group for this to see. Loki, get! Yeah, come on. You have toys. Let's go. Sorry. Loki's in a mood, a weird mood. Um, and he is just not listening today for anything. So, I am trying to see if there is anything local to the Farris trial or murder to see what I can find. Let's scour the internet. I apologize that you're just staring. Um, Hmm. Sorry, everybody. I am trying to find this press conference. I have no idea where it's at, and I don't think Vinny does either. I am trying to find this for everybody. I don't know if maybe it just hasn't. Sorry. Don't know if maybe it just hasn't popped up yet or what. Hmm. Let's see what Vinny has at the moment.
That's possible too. I don't think they had found evidence there of that, but would the evidence be destroyed in the burn? Right?
Hmm.
And Lori Gray also on X. That's what he said. He said,
So Vinny's not on that. I am not finding any whatsoever about this press conference. Let's see. We don't do Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called anymore. But I am trying to find this press conference. Sorry, everyone. I don't mean to keep coughing. I'm trying to search for this I am um while I am trying to find the presser. I have no idea where this press conference is. All right. Well, while we wait for me to find the press conference, I am going to share my screen. So give me 1 second. File videos. Let me edit source. All right, so we're gonna read this article from Fox News. Crap. Stop. I knew that was gonna happen. There we go. All right. So it says Melody Farris found guilty on all counts in murder of husband, burning. It was published at 3:51, Canton, Georgia. Melody Farris, accused of killing her husband, prominent attorney Gary Farris, and burning his body in their Cherokee County property, has been found guilty on all counts. Farris stood stoic during the verdict, showing no emotion as the judge found her guilty on all 5 counts. Prosecutors said Melody Farris was the only one with the motive and opportunity to kill her husband, but the defense says that there are too many unanswered Her attorneys attempted to attribute the crime to Scott Farris, her son, who discovered the burned body of his father in a burn pit on the property in July of 2018, sorry. He testified that his mom only showed emotion once the investigators told them that the remains were human. And I understand the not showing emotion until you're told that, you know, until you're told that it is a body is not a terrible thing. Those things where honestly, I would probably wait to be told that, you know, it was my versus go um and so I mean, is it really that odd to see? Um Sorry, we have all right, I apologize. There was fighting, and since the shooting last, I am a little on edge with things like that. So to see if um if Vinny happens to be um showing the press conference. I so far have not seen any. Ooh, I found a great video that we might watch together. Um, it is 8 hours, but it truly just goes through days 1 through 20 beautifully. And so I may do that at some point. Come on, Vinny. I want to see
We're
this
here at a
press
customer's house,
conference.
airing out their old furnace and putting in a brand new
So
one.
I
So making
apologize
this
that
video
this
is
is
because it
taking
a
so
system
long
that
for me to be able to find the press con your property before you know that something that was found was your spouse. I don't really know. I have severe anxiety, and so I'm anxious about everything. So I mean, I probably would just assume the worst, but that's just me. I feel like the normal human being probably would not. So it says Scott testified that he believed that there were red flags before Gary died. Although Melody and Gary were married for more than 3 decades, prosecutors argued that they had marital issues and had argued about finances around the time of the alleged murder. Melody's attorney mentioned that Scott was the only one who owned 38 caliber ammunition. Also during testimony, it was revealed that 64-year-old Melody Farris had an affair with Ted Y. That I don't know. It could be. I could have swore that his last name was different. Ted Wiley. Ted Wiley is the last name. I knew that was wrong. Um, that occurred in 2009. Her daughter, Emily Farris, testified that this led to a breakdown in the marriage and that the relationship never fully recovered, despite her father's efforts to reconcile. His testimony painted a picture of a family strained by financial and emotional turmoil, as Emily recalled her mother's influence over family decisions and financial control, despite being removed from the joint bank accounts after the affair. Now, I don't know about you guys, but to me, it seems very strange that, Melody Ferris would still have total control over family decisions and finances, like the kids say, if she was removed. Um, but that is just me. I find it odd, like you would have control still. Like, I don't know. It just seems strange to me. The case has drawn the attention due to the unusual circumstances surrounding Gary Farris's death. Initially believed to be a medical incident, the discovery of a bullet in his remains transformed the case into a homicide investigation. While the forensic evidence provided key insights, the defense continues to question how Melody, a woman weighing 130 pounds, could have moved her 300-pound husband onto the burn pile alone. A sentencing hearing will be scheduled for the first week of December. Now, if you guys want, um, I will go ahead and out exactly when the sentencing hearing will be. And we can go ahead and watch it live if you guys would like. Um, let's see. Uh-oh. Okay. Did I lose? I hope I didn't lose signal. Hmm. Oh no. Come on. Okay, there we go. I apologize. I somehow ended up disconnected. Um, I am going to do a quick look over to see if I can find the press conference. We're going to start with YouTube. No, so far, nothing. Um, let's see what I can find here. Hmm, Cherokee County press conference. Melody. Yes. Okay. So I honestly have no idea. Um, Give me one moment. I know that that's not a fun screen to stare at for a second, but I am hopping on Facebook and seeing if I can find anything about a press conference. Uh, all right. I am seeing absolutely nothing for the press conference, so I apologize. Um, Vinny Politan had stated that there would be a press conference at 5:30. But as of right now, there's no press conference. Um, let's just double check. Yeah, I hate politics. I don't hate politics, but I hate politics enough. I can't wait for tomorrow to be over. No. So Vinny Politan got off. He is not live anymore. Um, so let's see if a press conference starts up soon. Um, so sorry for continued coughing. Um, I know he said that he was going to get off for the press conference, so let's see. I mean, you never know. Maybe one will pop up. Hmm. So far, there is nothing really. Let's see if there's anything updated under the advanced search options. If I can't find it, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going over um I am going to start going over I don't like how they changed this. Um I'm going to start going over a video that I had found. All right. Let's see what I can find within the past hour. I have a feeling nothing in the past hour is going to.
Yeah, it was like
Nope. All right. So let me come here. All right. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Sorry, everyone. Melody Farris. So we're gonna go to the day 1 to 20 video. Um, I really think that it could be a great way to go in depth on the trial without taking up quite as much time going. Um, so let's see. Melody Ferris, day 1 through 20. And what I'm going to do is I am going to copy and paste that and I will put it in the description a little bit later. So, without further ado, let's cover days 1 through 20. I'll give you guys a little bit of commentary through some of this. These are basically the highlights um, from days 1 through 20, which I think would be wonderful. And I kind of wish I would have found this sooner. Um, but I feel like this is a good way for us to be able to go in depth without going too in depth. I wasn't going to go live today because I feel like crap, but I'm going to be on mute for a while now. Um, and so I'm going to catch up on my cough drops and my cough syrup and all of that while this is playing. And since we're on day 3, sorry, I had to cough and I was trying not to cough uh, while I was on uh, the mic. But I'm gonna go up until day 3. Once day 3 starts, then I'll start giving more commentary, but we've already gone way in depth between days 1 and 2. And then I think we'll follow this for days 3 through 20, um, and see how that goes. But I look forward to really going over this with you. Uh, I don't know if today's live is going to be quite as long or not. Um, Only because again, I'm not feeling good. Um, and so what I'll do is potentially jump on tomorrow. Um, Still early. I'd say probably like 10 o'clock-ish. I'll hop on whenever I'm done voting. I'm not entirely sure when my husband's coming to grab me. Um, but after I'm done voting, I will hop on and we will cover whatever days we don't cover today. Um, and while I am doing that, I am also going to hop on to chat and talk to everybody in chat for a little bit. So let me know how your guys' night's doing. Let's start a conversation, guys. I can't wait um to have it so that I have an active chat. Um because I love chatting to you guys. I love being able to get that in real time feedback. I love being able to give that in real time feedback. I love being able to answer questions in real time. And I just want to give a huge shout out, truly, to Court and Crime for this because this is just incredible. So, thank you so much, Court and Crime. I'm liking and subscribing. Um, but I really appreciate Court and Crime doing this. I don't know if there's commentary already or not, but I will also be giving my additional commentary as well. Um, so without further ado, let's get to the video.
Change. In the beginning, he says one thing, and then he gives up more and more. It's like pulling teeth. You finally get it out. But he recants. And this is what he recants. The evidence in the case is going to show that when you shrink the world to the only person that had the motive was her. The only person that was home when this could have occurred. Tuesday evening, going in from Tuesday the 3rd to Wednesday the 4th, about 2 o'clock in the morning, law enforcement talks to Rusty and says, all right, what did she say? And he describes it as the last minute, the last conversation. And this is what he tells law enforcement. She said, Gary's in the burn pile. No. She said, he is in the burn pile. And I said, what? And she said, he is in the burn pile. I said, do not say another word and do not tell me anything. I do not need to know that. This is what, before the murder's known, anything like that, he's on the phone. The record's going to show that he had 3 or 4 main phone calls during this time. It's going to show that his pattern when he would talk to her was abnormal for this time. There's a phone call, and he says, I talked to her. And this is what she said. He's in the burn pile. This would have been July. After she's arrested, she's in jail before she bonds out. There's actually jail calls. And you're going to hear some of those. And we told you there's going to be calls and things like that. And you're going to have to be patient with us. It's going to be a lot of information. It's just a piece of this puzzle. But at the end of the day, it's going to show the defendant. So it's past being arrested. He recants the law enforcement. Oh, I didn't say. She didn't say that. I was pressured. I was under duress. I was taking sleeping pills. I was under alcohol. And then she's talking to him on a phone call. And this is just a part. Now you're going to hear the whole thing later on. But this is what we call consciousness of guilt. The evidence is going to show that she says this, and this is not what an innocent person would say to her lover.
Sure.
No. Well, like a long time ago, I just stopped talking.
Right.
done anything.
I know that, Norwood.
But because other, what you keep talking about, you're going to single-handedly hang me.
Melody Walker Farris is facing multiple charges, including malice murder and aggravated assault, after the death of her husband, Gary Farris. Gary, a prominent Atlanta attorney, lived with Melody on a 10-acre farm in Alpharetta. Their relationship, while long-lasting at 38 years, was far from peaceful. On July 5, 2018, deputies were called to the property after human remains were found in a fire. Initially, authorities thought Gary may have fallen into the fire after a medical incident, but the discovery of a bullet in his rib quickly turned the case into a homicide investigation. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a family that didn't get along. This family included Gary and Melody's 4 adult children, their spouses, and grandchildren. Tension ran deep, not just between Melody and Gary but among the children as well. Some didn't get along with each other, while others didn't get along with their parents. This fractured family dynamic added layers to the case. During the prosecution's opening statement, one of Gary and Melody's sons reportedly told law enforcement that after finding his father's remains on the burn pile, he believed his mother had finally killed his dad. It's a chilling statement that highlights the dysfunctional relationships within the family. The discovery of a .38 caliber bullet, which didn't match any weapon found on the property, raised questions about how the crime was committed. The couple's marriage had been on the rocks for years. Gary had even filed for divorce in 2010, though it was dismissed later that year. Investigators also revealed Melody had been having an affair with a man named Roy Rusty Barton. She initially denied this but later admitted to it, though she claimed the relationship ended a year before Gary's death. However, investigators found out she had been lying and later arrested her in Tennessee, where she had been spending time with Rusty. Melody's deception about the affair only deepened suspicions. Was this affair more than just a relationship on the side? Did it drive a wedge between Melody and Gary, leading to murder? However, Melody's infidelity alone doesn't automatically make her guilty of murder. It's possible she lied out of embarrassment or fear of how it would look in the investigation. Lying about a personal affair doesn't always mean someone is hiding involvement in a much more serious crime like murder. But the question remains, why lie if she had nothing to hide? Prosecutors argue that financial tensions between Gary and Melody were the root of their conflict. Gary, being a successful lawyer, had accumulated significant wealth. He was generous with his adult children, giving them financial support, much to Melody's dismay. She seemed to enjoy the benefits of Gary's success, but had a major issue with how he chose to spend his money. According to the prosecution, Melody was upset that Gary gave money to their kids, or at least some of them. This financial disagreement reportedly boiled over at the time of Gary's death. The prosecution's argument suggests that Melody's frustration with Gary's financial decisions could have driven her to murder him. However, it's worth questioning whether this financial conflict, even if severe, would truly escalate into something so extreme. Was Melody so desperate for control over the finances that she would take her husband's life? Or is there another factor that has yet to come to light? While money can be a powerful motivator, it doesn't always lead to murder, and this family dynamic appears far more complicated than a simple financial dispute. The defense raised significant points in their opening statement, pointing to the gaps in the investigation. No one knows the location where Gary was shot or how Melody, a much smaller woman, could have moved his body, especially considering Gary's size. He was over 6 feet tall and weighed more than 300 pounds. Also, no murder weapon was recovered from the scene. The defense suggests that this lack of physical evidence raises reasonable doubt. Could Melody have committed this crime alone, or is there another explanation? One of the more intriguing aspects of the case is the fact that Scott, one of Gary and Melody's sons, had access to ammunition, the same type of ammunition used in Gary's murder. This detail complicates the case further. If Scott possessed this kind of ammunition, why hasn't this avenue been fully explored? Could Scott, or someone else in the family, have had a hand in Gary's death? The fact that there is missing evidence and multiple family members involved makes this case far from straightforward. The prosecution seems confident that Melody is the sole culprit, but these unanswered questions suggest otherwise. During yesterday's opening statements, the prosecution revealed that at the time of the murder, Melody had a phone call with her lover, Rusty, during which she allegedly told him that Gary is in the burn pile. This statement alone seems enough to argue that the case is closed, and some might feel that this is all the proof needed to declare her guilty and lock her away for good. It's a damning statement, no doubt, and it raises serious questions about Melody's involvement. With such incriminating evidence, it's hard to see how the defense will convince the jury that Melody wasn't responsible for her husband's death. How can they explain away such a chilling confession? However, as the trial progresses, the defense may find ways to create doubt, challenging the context of that statement and questioning the reliability of the evidence against her. This could open the door for alternative theories about what truly happened on that tragic day. Now we would like to hear from you all. Do you think the financial disputes between Gary and Melody were enough to drive her to murder? How much weight do you place on Melody's affair with Rusty Barton? Lastly, do you think the gaps in the investigation raise enough doubt to question Melody's guilt?
I've never voted for Trump. But when he was president, life was a lot better. I trust him on the economy.
You're fine. And how long was he in hospital for?
A few days. I talked to the doctors, and they were just trying to figure out kind of what was wrong with him to cause him to have the spell that caused him to have to be brought to the hospital. So they ran some tests. I know they had a stress test and all that kind of stuff.
While you were talking to your dad in the hospital, did he enlighten you on what he thought was wrong with him?
He did.
What was that?
He said, "Chris, I think your mother is trying to poison me."
And what was your reaction?
I said, "Excuse me." He said, "Well," it's like, "she spent the day screaming at me, and I was watching TV in the theater room, and all of a sudden she brings me down some cookies. And I ate the cookies, and my throat started burning, and then I started feeling bad." And I told him, are you, like, what? He's like, "Oh, I'm just probably paranoid or something." Some paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he kind of shrugged it off.
Sure.
And that's what he said.
At that time, did you know the state of your parents' relationship?
I know they didn't like each other very much.
Why did you think that?
Well, there had been different episodes, with, he had told me about a gentleman named Rusty Barton. He had told me.
Okay, so here's a quick question for everybody. I want to know, how do you go um from talking about how your father felt like he was potentially poisoned to Rusty Barton all in the same comment? Um, Not that I'm saying that I don't believe that Gary Farris could have been being poisoned. Absolutely. I feel that Gary Farris potentially being poisoned is absolutely plausible. But what does Rusty Barton have to do with Gary Farris potentially being poisoned? And please, if it is just me being autistic and not seeing where the dots connect, let me know, because that happened. I just feel like Rusty Barton doesn't really play into that, as it would have been a choice of Melody's, not Rusty's, unless they have proof that Rusty gave the idea. It's a confusing aspect for me. So if you take it differently, please explain it. I would love that. But I'm going to be quiet and let's go over more of Chris's testimony um, in day 3.
Children more than me.
Like who?
Scott. Maybe Amanda. I don't know about Amanda.
Did you know how they lived physically in the home? In the farm?
Of course, yes.
And how did they live?
My father slept downstairs in a bedroom in the basement. My mother slept in the master bedroom. They still shared a bathroom. My father still showered in the master bathroom. He still had his main closet there, but they slept on different floors.
In day 3 of the Melody Farris trial, we saw her son Chris Farris take the stand, and boy did he reveal a lot about this family. One thing that has really stood out for me, after covering so many cases, is how sometimes, not always, but sometimes, families with great wealth seem to have the greatest turmoil in their relationships. On the flip side, some of the poorest families can often have the strongest, closest bonds. This dynamic is fascinating to think about as we dive deeper into the Farris family's situation. Now, let's get back to Chris Farris' testimony. He told the court that his father, Gary, believed his mother tried to poison him. At first, I thought, okay, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But when Chris added more details about the incident, I suddenly sat up and took notice. Apparently, Melody had been screaming at Gary all day, and then, out of the blue, she brought him cookies. Now, before Chris even went any further, I found that very odd.
Give me just a moment because I realized that it is not showing up like it should. So, give me one quick second while I swap channels to figure out what the heck's going on. I usually watch this on my phone, so I apologize. If you guys happen to see that it like stops working while I'm live, if you could let me know, that would be amazing. It still says I'm live.
We saw her son Chris
There
Farris
we go.
take the stand, and boy did he reveal a lot
Okay.
about this family. One thing that has really...
We are going to, all right. All right, so I apologize. I had to cough. So we are going to go back to the video. I will be able to see it to make sure that it is showing on the screen. I should have just pulled it up on my phone to begin with, like I usually do. I wasn't thinking. I was trying to find that press conference that I don't believe that they are doing anymore, but we'll double check a little bit later. So yes, thank you. And now back to day 3.
Why would someone who's been furious all day suddenly try to offer a peace gesture like that? Chris went on to tell the court that after Gary started eating the cookies, his throat began burning, and he started feeling ill. Gary might have shrugged it off, But the fact that he mentioned this to his son in such detail tells me that Gary must have really believed Melody was trying to poison him. But here's a crucial detail we're missing. Were those cookies bought, or did Melody bake them herself? If they were homemade, and then maybe he really did believe she was trying to poison him. Chris also revealed the state of his parents' marriage, mentioning that they no longer shared a bed, or even the same house. Melody stayed on one floor, and Gary on another. Chris then brought up Rusty, the man Melody was having all. Do you believe Gary's suspicion that Melody was trying to poison him holds weight based on Chris's testimony? How important is the detail of whether the cookies were store-bought or homemade in shaping your opinion on the alleged poisoning attempt? What role, if any, do you think Rusty played in this?
Okay, so that is an excellent question. One that I really don't think that I thought of before, or at least thought about before. But how do you feel? Do you feel that the cookies that Chris is talking about are homemade or store-bought? And again, how much does that play into your concept of everything? Also, you guys will see my alternate account um, in the chat. I am using that so that YouTube cuts out the video less because I'm not switching between chat and everything. It's only that way until I get a second monitor for my laptop. Um, but until then, sadly, you'll see my alternate account watching. So, but yes, do you feel that Melody was poisoning Gary? Um, honestly, maybe. Um, I can entirely see potentially her poisoning him. Okay, perfect. We're live again. I apologize. My internet is just crap tonight. Um, so I truly apologize. But um, I'm really interested in hearing, like, do you guys believe that these cookies had anything to do with it? Do you believe that she was poisoning him? I'm kind of on the fence. I believe that if she is guilty, then absolutely it's a possibility. I do not believe that she did this alone. Um, I'm still not entirely convinced either way that she is really guilty, but if she is, um, then I don't think that she did this alone. I think somebody else knows about this and they're just keeping their mouth shut because Melody's already taking the fall. Um, s- Let me know what you guys think. I'm really interested in hearing your point of view. Drop it in the chat. I'm really curious to see what everybody's opinions are, what everybody thinks happened, what everybody feels led to this. Um, do you think she accomplished this by herself? Do you think that Rusty knew? Do you think maybe Scott helped her? Um, I'm curious. What do you think happened to the gun also that um Martha, I believe it was Martha, um said went missing? Um Apparently it was a 38. Do you think that Rusty was covering up the fact that this gun went missing? Um I'm kind of curious. on what you guys think. Um, why do you think that they haven't found the murder weapon? That's another big question that I have. Where do you think that she disposed of the murder weapon? And this is another reason why I believe that if the jury did get this right, um, that she didn't do this alone. Because there is such a lack of evidence, and I feel like if her granddaughter and her daughter's stepdaughter were there, then I feel like it would be a lot harder to hide evidence. And I feel like you would be potentially less level headed and potentially less capable of making a sound decision. I could totally be wrong. She may have been absolutely level headed. She may have pre planned this. This could have been premeditated. Um, and I wouldn't know any better. Um, but yes, I'm kind of curious. What are your thoughts on this? There's a lot of unanswered questions, I feel like, and I don't feel like I'm going to entirely be happy until we hear more about the details of the case and until we can physically look at the documents. I'm a very visual person, so having a lot of these documents directly in front of me um, is a huge help. It plays a big role in how I understand what's going on. Um, so let's get back to the video and um, we'll see how much longer I can last. My throat's getting really scratchy and really just yuck feeling. Um, so we'll see how much longer I think I can hold out. Um, and we'll pick up the rest of this tomorrow. Um, So thank you to everybody for joining me. I want to give another really quick shout out to Court and Crime with Tia. Um, I appreciate you uploading this video. And I really appreciate the work that you put into this to compile days 1 through 20, especially with the commentary. And I really appreciate the questions. Um, If you happen to end up watching this, Court and Crime with Tia, and you ever want to hop up here and give your opinion on any cases that I'm covering, or if you just want to hop up here so that there is feedback, feel free. My email is in the chat. And I would love to have anybody who is willing to come and talk about this and debate back and forth um, up on panel. And not just this case, but truly any case that I'm covering. If you guys want to see me covering any case in particular, please feel free to let me know, and I will gladly do my best to cover any cases that you guys request. So back to the video.
This whole ordeal, especially after hearing that conversation between him and Melody.
Rob, at the time of your father's death, how would you describe their marriage to each other?
Not good.
Why so?
Because she was constantly disappearing, taking off, spending an abundance of money. Said she was going to do one thing, and that's not what she was going to do. And, they were constantly arguing with each other, never out in public. It was always at the house. But
Did your dad ever hit her?
no,
Lay a finger on her?
no.
Was he a screamer, yeller, cusser? What was your dad like when they would argue?
I wouldn't really say it's screaming, but he raised his voice, but he never
was screaming so hard that someone would lose their voice. He was never like that.
And what was she like?
Oh, she screamed.
What do you mean?
She definitely would scream and cuss and, show aggression.
Who is Ted Wiley?
Ted used to date my Aunt Sherry, which was my dad's sister.
And at some point, did you notice something or did you learn of something going on between him and your mom?
Yes. So when my grandmother, Melody's mother, Kay Walker, when she had a heart attack and had to have open heart surgery, I basically went with her and I helped stay with my grandmother in the hospital, especially when she was in the ICU.
The defendant was there to help her mom and you were with her?
Yes.
How did Ted come into the picture?
So, Sherry and Ted, they lived there in Muscle Shoals, Florence area and all. So, whenever we would go out to eat, we a lot of times went to eat with them. We always went to Logan Roadhouse or somewhere like that. And then after a couple months, I remember the night we went to Logan's Roadhouse and Ted came up and grabbed my mother's rear end like somebody would be doing who's in a relationship, like a full-blown relationship. And that right there triggered. And from there on, she started disappearing. She would leave, say, I'm going to run to the store, and not come back until either very, very early in the morning or till the next day, and leave me stranded with no vehicle.
Did you talk about this to your brothers and sisters? Did they know, or just you?
I think I've probably told Chris. Don't really remember if I told Emily or Amanda. I did get my dad. I told him, I was like, she keeps running off of Ted. And, they keep going and doing things together.
Pennsylvania, Election Day is November 5th. Visit vote.org and make your plan to vote.
This is success with SEMrush. It's getting new customers online while spending less and improving your website.
On day 4 of the Melody Farris trial, we heard testimony from her son, Scott Farris, and much like his brother's testimony the day before, Scott didn't hold back in painting a picture of this family's dynamics. He was quick to mention that his mother, Melody, had a short temper and was prone to anger, which often led to heated arguments between her and her husband, Gary. These arguments would frequently escalate into shouting matches, with Melody doing most of the screaming. It gives us a glimpse into the volatile nature of their relationship. Scott also revealed that his mother had an affair with none other than her husband's sister's boyfriend. Now, having an affair is already damaging enough, but to betray your spouse with someone so closely tied to the family, that's a whole new level of turmoil. One can only imagine the tension and division this must have caused within the family. There was one part of Scott's testimony that I found particularly distasteful, which I chose not to include in today's clip to keep my videos on the shorter side. However, it's worth watching yesterday's testimony to get a feel for what I'm saying. In an email exchange, Gary told Scott he was planning to divorce Melody, and Scott's response was dismissive, saying, "You do what you need to do. I've got my own stuff to deal with." This struck me as incredibly selfish. It's one thing for Gary to support his kids financially and be there for them when they need help, but when he sought emotional support during such a serious decision, Scott brushed him off. It left me with the impression that Scott might be a bit of a spoiled brat, expecting his father's help but not willing to reciprocate when Gary needed him. Yesterday, we heard similar testimony from Chris, the other son, who admitted to using his father's credit card without permission and receiving financial help from Gary to pay his bills. It's becoming increasingly clear that
Okay, so I don't know how I personally would feel about that. I still feel like some of the financial freedom that these children had was excessive. Um, And again, the fact that Chris stated that, there he took money without permission from his dad, like it just it seems to me that there is absolutely 100% um the ability for her to have done this by herself. Like I I honestly feel like one of the kids is probably also involved. I'm not sure if it's Chris or Scott or even both of them. Um I kind of feel like to some extent this is one of those things where it is um that you keep your mouth shut because somebody's already taking the fall. So why implicate yourself if you don't have to? And I feel like a lot of Chris and Scott's testimony is potentially them giving away little pieces that they were also involved. Um, I'm not convinced that she did this by herself if she did do it. I'm really interested in hearing what everybody else has to say. Um, do you feel like she did this by herself? Sorry, there are neighbors outside, and uh, sorry, there's neighbors outside, and the dog can hear them. And while he does very good for a good majority of the noises that he hears when his sister starts, he also starts, and she's downstairs barking at some of the kids that are outside playing football. Loki, no thank you, sir. Quiet. Um, he's doing a little better with listening at the moment. That was the only reason why I didn't mute. Um, but what do you guys think? Do you think that she did this by herself? If you think that she did this by herself, um, how? I mean, I don't know. I was with somebody who was 6'6" and 210 pounds at his biggest. Now, sorry, I had to cough. Um, but now I'm only 5 foot tall. But um, at the time, I made up for it weight wise because I had had two children within 4 years of each other. So I was not exactly the skinniest. I was roughly like 200 pounds at the time. But I, my ex and I had a very volatile and toxic relationship, and it was physically abusive. And there would be times where I would try to push him off of me when it would get physical, and I wouldn't be able to budge him, even with being 5 foot tall and almost 200 pounds at the time. Um, I wouldn't stand a chance against him now. I'm significantly smaller. Um, and I was always a very petite person. Um, so, you know, I am very similar size to Melody Farris. She's just a little bit taller than me. Um, and so I find it strange that she would be able to move a body. And I understand that people do it all the time, but she doesn't really seem like the type of person that would work a job such as like nursing or CNA or something where she would regularly have to move heavy equipment or heavy people or heavy boxes or things like that. Um, So and this also plays into why I don't believe that she did this by herself, and why I also feel that she had help. And partially why I feel like she may have had help from her sons. And they all agreed that if they would just keep their mouth shut, that, they could split the life insurance money or whatever. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm curious. Let me know what you guys think. But we're gonna go back to the video and talk some more about day 4. We'll listen some more about day 4 and then we'll go over some more of it.
That Gary was not just a father, but the family's financial lifeline. However, when it came to offering him emotional support, especially during something as significant as a potential divorce, it seems like his children weren't there for him. It'll be interesting to see how the other 2 Farris children, Gary and Melody's daughters, testify when their turn comes. One can only hope they were more supportive of their father. Otherwise, we might see a troubling pattern of entitlement, where Gary was treated as little more than the family's cash cow.
Oh, I found it. I found it, guys. I found the press conference. All right. So we are going to take a quick small break from court and crime. And we are going to go over here to YouTube. Get off of that, Loki. Come on. Hold on 1 minute.
I think they just need to take it one day at a time. It's taken 6 years to get to this point.
She is sentenced. We don't have Farris's mugshot. Moments ago, she was booked into the Cherokee County Detention Center in Georgia. At it right there. That's her mugshot. Last hour, a jury found her guilty of killing her husband, Gary Farris. Melody, of course, faces life in prison when she is sentenced. We don't have a date for that just yet. And I want to remind you, we're also just minutes away from a live news conference will come after the guilty verdict. We are expecting the Cherokee County District Attorney, the Assistant District Attorneys who tried the case, and we may also hear from Gary Farris's family as well. We're going to bring that to you as soon as it begins. Word from our producer on the ground is that it will be beginning shortly. So keep it here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn back now to the burn pile murder trial of Melody Farris. Now, we are, as we've told you, awaiting a news conference with the prosecution team. And, of course, that is expected to go at about 5:30 or so. We'll bring it to you as soon as it begins. Just a couple of hours ago, the jury reached its verdict.
We, the jury, as the count 5, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 4, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 3, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 2, find the defendant guilty. And we, the jury, as to count 1, find the defendant guilty.
All right, so those counts were malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, which was the underlying felony in that felony murder, concealing the death of another, and making false statements. Farris, she actually sat down stunned. She put her hands to her face after that verdict was read. We were told by Matt Johnson, who was sitting just behind her two sons, that Scott, remember, he testified against her. He was in tears as he listened to the decision by the jury. Farris then took off her earrings. She handed them over to her attorney before being taken into custody. She was then handcuffed, and then led out of the courtroom and taken to the Cherokee County Detention Center to be booked. No date has been set for that sentencing. We're hearing it could happen sometime next month or so. And just a little while ago, we showed you that mugshot that was actually taken of her now. Just incredible stuff. Just the drama. Unbelievable. There it is, that mugshot of her in the Cherokee County Detention Center. No pearls in that shot, I'll tell you that. All right, still with us, criminal defense attorney Laura Yaretzi. And Laura, I want to get your reaction to that verdict today. It came after the jury came back and told the judge that they were deadlocked. A couple of hours later, they went back. He gave them the Allen charge. They came back with that guilty verdict. I want to get your reaction.
That's one of the reasons why defense lawyers don't like the Allen charge, because you kind of push the jury that's deadlocked into a decision. And sometimes people are pressured as a result, right? Because they want to, they're being sent back. They think, you know what, I'm not going to be out of this jury service until there's a verdict of some sort, because the judge is sending us back. And hence, the reason most lawyers, defense lawyers, don't like it. Once the jury comes back and says they're deadlocked, we want it to be over right there and then and get our mistrial. Am I surprised? Not necessarily. I mean, we had a mother and a son kind of pointing the finger at one another in this case, and it was one or the other. The defense never raised the possibility of an outsider being the culprit, which to me was a little surprising. I mean, it was a huge property. I forget how many acres it was, and anyone could have been there. Someone may have done it and no one would have known. It just, to me, Amanda, the daughter's testimony was, I thought, was helpful to Melody, but clearly wasn't enough to save her. And now we've got a mother and we've got a son who's crying. The one who testified against her was crying because she was found guilty. It's tragic, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, it's tragic all the way around. And looking back at it now, she didn't take the stand to testify in her own defense. We talked a lot about that here on the show, whether she should or not. I thought there was plenty of reasonable doubt in this case. So my opinion was, I was advising her, I would have advised her not to take the stand, which she did not do. Do you think in hindsight that was a mistake?
Who knows, right? It's easy to say things in hindsight, but as a criminal defense attorney, especially when there's reasonable doubt, I mean, there was enough there for reasonable doubt. There was enough to point, to say that, or to think at least, or a reasonable person may have thought that the son was the one who did it, right? How would she have been able to get the body of someone who weighs 300 pounds and she weighed only 120 pounds? How she would get that body to the fire was, not something that anyone can imagine. And the defense lawyer put on the show showing that to the jury, and that in itself should have been enough for reasonable doubt. Clearly it wasn't. I don't necessarily know or think that her testimony would have made a difference. I mean, this jury clearly made up its mind despite the fact that I thought that there was reasonable doubt here.
Yeah, and that mystery of how Gary got on that burn pile, that's just something we're never going to know. A lot of people online just felt like, look, she was the one at the property. They felt that the state proved she was the only one with the means, motive, and opportunity. He was dead. She was guilty of it. That's kind of where they were. They didn't care as much about how the logistics went down. I know a lot of people focused on it, but a lot of viewers didn't. I'd say it was about 75-25 in that sense. This case was also odd in the fact that, again, children of the defendant testified against her. One of them was Chris, and he testified here. I want to listen to some of his testimony. He talked about the fact that Melody expressed the fact, or at least in his opinion, Melody was sort of in this position where she couldn't wait for Gary to die. Let's take a listen.
Did you ever see your mother get upset with your dad?
Quite a few times.
Was there an incident with seeing your mom break a plate?
Yes. I've tried my best to remember the exact date. I know it was prior to his death. It wasn't really, I don't want to say it was several months, but it was within a few weeks or so.
All right, I want to cut off that tape that we're playing for you because, as you can see, things are moving out there in Georgia, Cherokee County. They're ready to begin that press conference. Looks like they're all beginning to line up there behind the podium. See the prosecutor there, actually both prosecutors. Let's go in.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Susan Treadaway. I'm the District Attorney for Cherokee County. We're here today to announce that a jury has returned a verdict of guilty against Melody Walker Farris for the murder of her husband, Gary Wayne Farris. This was a 5-count indictment, and the defendant now stands convicted of all 5 counts in that indictment. Standing with me are Chief Assistant District Attorney Katie Gropper, Chief Investigator Brandon Owens, and the trial team, the prosecution team that led this case, starting with lead prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Megan Frankish, Deputy Assistant District Attorney Jeffrey Fogus, Investigator Monica Moore, Victim Advocate Giselle Villanueva, and Assistant Chief Investigator William Hagwood. Also joining us here are Cherokee County Sheriff Frank Reynolds, his Chief Deputy Tommy Pinion, and lead case investigator Sergeant Daniel Hayes. Present from the Farris family, our brother John Farris, his wife Nancy Farris, and sons Chris and Scott Farris. This case originated on July 5th, 2018, when Cherokee County 911 received a call that a man had been found on a burn pile located on residential property in a rural portion of Cherokee County. It was later learned that the victim, 58-year-old Gary Farris, had started a fire on his property days before. An initial theory suggested a possible medical emergency or accidental death. During its investigation, the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office uncovered signs of foul play, including a bullet lodged in Mr. Farris's rib cage and a spent bullet found inside the home. These findings, along with other evidence, led to the arrest and indictment of the victim's wife, Melody Farris, on charges of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, concealing the death of another, and making a false statement. The evidence in this case required a tremendous amount of law enforcement resources, in addition to extensive forensic testing and analysis. I would like to formally recognize Sheriff Reynolds, GBI Director Chris Hosey, and their respective agencies for their commitment to seeking justice for Gary Farris. I would also like to recognize the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation for their assistance, as well as the Cherokee County Coroner's Office, the Marshal's Office, and the Fire Department. This jury trial took place over the course of 18 days, beginning on October 7th and ending with closing arguments on October 30th. During the trial, the state called 36 witnesses and introduced over 1,200 pieces of evidence. After just over 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict of guilty on all charges. Under Georgia law, the crime of murder carries a minimum sentence of life in prison. Melody Farris has now been remanded to custody, and Superior Court Judge David L. Cannon will schedule sentencing for a later date. Let us never forget the reason that we are all here today. In July 2018, a horrific murder occurred in our community. A man was shot and left on a burn pile, his body desecrated. The shocking facts and images of this case will forever remain with first responders, law enforcement officers, prosecutors, jurors, and all who have followed this case. Gary did not deserve to die in this manner. He was a loving brother, father, and grandfather, a respected attorney, and a beloved member of our community. He is deeply missed. We thank the jury for their service, for their careful deliberation, and the verdict that they have reached. May this verdict bring some comfort for those who knew and loved Gary Farris. John Farris will now read a statement on behalf of the family. Immediately following, the prosecution team and lead investigator will answer a few questions.
Thank you, Ms. Treadaway, and good evening. As Ms. Treadaway said, I'm John Farris, and Gary was my brother, and his kids have asked me to make a statement for the family, and I'm honored to do so. Over 6 years ago, our family's lives were changed forever when we learned that Gary had been shot and left on a fire pit to be burned. While we have been anticipating this verdict for a long time and are pleased with the jury's decision, we struggle with mixed emotions. Melody has been a part of our lives for over 40 years. Gary's children have not only lost a loving father, but now they have lost their mother. However, with the work of this prosecution team and this jury, we can say that justice has been served today. With this verdict, we hope to have some closure to a terrible chapter in our lives. We also hope to honor Gary as we move forward and pick up the pieces of our fractured family. We are so grateful to the investigators and the prosecution team for the tireless hours that they have invested in the pursuit of justice for Gary. Megan, Jeffrey, and Detectives Hayes, Pope, and Kuykendall, and everybody else that was involved, we are forever indebted to you. The citizens of Cherokee County are indeed lucky to have these people in their service. We appreciate the jury members for devoting a month of their lives to help close this case. We also have an extensive network of family and friends that have provided their support and prayers throughout this ordeal, and we want to thank each of you for being there for us. Your support has been invaluable to us. The grief we feel for our beloved father, brother, and friend is insurmountable, but due to today's verdict, we can proceed in our efforts to celebrate Gary and all that he meant to us. Thank you.
All right, still a lot more to come. We do have to take a break. We'll hit the pause button. We'll make sure you hear it all. Again, that was John Farris, the brother of the victim, Gary Farris, speaking on behalf of the family, thanking everyone, and hoping that this verdict can bring the family closure. We'll have more when we come back. Keep it here on Court TV.
Mr. Jeffrey, tell me what happened that night.
Killed my wife, I guess. I don't remember none of that.
You don't remember the fight with Lisa?
How many times did you hit her? 5.
You don't remember what her dead body looked like laying out there in front of you?
Not at all.
If you were me, would you believe you?
Interview with a Killer. Sunday, 8/7 Central. Only on Court TV.
All right, folks, we want to get you right back to that news conference happening now in Georgia after a jury found Melody Farris guilty on all counts in the murder of her husband, prominent Atlanta attorney Gary Farris. So let's go back to that news conference. Speaking, Susan Treadway, the Cherokee County District Attorney.
Do you have a few questions for the trial team? Do you have any questions?
Sure. It's Ryan Smith with CBS 48 Hours. In this particular case, why was it so important to seek justice over the course of months, years? I know it wasn't easy, but you guys really worked quite hard. I mean, what was that process like? And the verdict today, what does it mean to you personally after hearing the word guilty?
That's a loaded question. It was a very strenuous, sure. It was a long process, very strenuous. There were terabytes and reports and a mountain of evidence to go through. And we're just grateful that the jury did a diligent effort in going through that evidence and coming to the right verdict.
What were your thoughts when the jury looked like they were deadlocked?
We asked the jury in the beginning to take their time. Going back to your question, murder cases are tough because you're dealing with the weight and glory of a life that's been taken and taken in such a manner. We did not think anything about it. It's the process. The procedure and the process works itself out. We had confidence in the jury. We had confidence in the facts, and we had confidence in the law. The fact that they were deliberate, that they were tenacious in going through all the evidence and looking at everything just reinforces that the verdict is true, and the verdict did speak the truth.
Keith Greenberg with Dateline, and either the prosecution could answer this or the detectives. Your work is done on this case, but the family is in the room over here. Now their work begins. From your vast experience, what recommendations do you give them to help this process move easier?
I can answer that. I think they just need to take it one day at a time. It's taken 6 years to get to this point. It's going to take a lifetime of healing. And looking at the family now, I know they're behind the camera, but just looking to the family and knowing what they've all been through, this is the beginning of another process for you. And of course, you know we're behind you all the way, and we support the family. We are here for the family. Any resources we can offer to them, and we certainly hope that this step in the process is a step towards healing for your family. We're very sorry for your loss.
In today's verdict, what message does it send to the citizens of Cherokee County?
Hayes, why don't you take that one?
I think, the verdict sends a message that we're here to work for you, and we won't stop until, the outcome that we're seeking is done. This entire team, the sheriff's office, from the beginning, and all the law enforcement officers, we never stopped. This case went through COVID. It went through a lot of difficult times.
All right, everyone. So that was the end of the press conference. I'm curious, how do you guys view the case so far? How do you feel about it? I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this case. This case really has had an impact on me because, it's really sad that this family is missing a son, a father, a grandfather. But guilty or not, they're also missing Melody. They're missing, a sister, an aunt, a mother, a grandmother. I am a firm believer that there is no such thing as a victimless crime. Even if it is just something as small as taking a candy bar. How do you know that that single candy bar isn't the thing that makes or breaks that company? Maybe that one candy bar going missing is the thing that, you know, makes their employers, or not their employer, their supplier sit here and be like, nope, we're done. You've had too much of a loss and we're not supplying you anymore. And you're going to have to find another supplier of this. And, maybe the increase in fees or price or shipping or whatever is that difference. I don't believe that there is any such thing as a victimless crime. And it's even worse when it's stuff like this, where the ripple effect is just endless. There are little kids that have had any future memories ripped away from them. Any future special moments that they may have had with grandma or grandpa have just been stripped away. A lot of their memory of their grandmother and their grandfather could be stripped away depending on how old they are. These parents are potentially going to be one of the last generations that knows the grandmother and the grandfather. And depending on how young those grandchildren are, they may not be able to pass down those memories. And so it's really difficult because there's two people who are going to end up being forgotten once their children pass away, for the most part. And that's sad. I hope that I get the ability to watch my grandchildren grow up and know my grandchildren to the point where they carry on lessons that I taught them, or recipes, or traditions. Um, and both Melody and Gary's families are going to be lacking some of that. They're going to be lacking um, some of the realness that they have. They're gonna lose some of the reason why they do those traditions. They're not going to fully understand what it means when mom or dad says, "Oh, we do this in honor of grandma or in honor of grandpa or you know, whatever," because they're not going to have a physical idea of who grandma or grandpa are. They're just going to have a vague idea based on pictures and things like that. Um, it's really funny because for as much as I remember of my great grandmother, I can kind of empathize with these children because I don't remember a lot about my great grandmother. And my great grandmother was one of my most favorite people in the entire world, along with my Uncle Gary. And because I was so young when both of them died, my memories of them are very vague, and very specific events. Um, Otherwise, I can't remember their voices. I can't really remember what they smelled like, but yet I can tell you every ounce of what my husband is like. Just because I'm significantly older, I remember a lot more detail than I care to admit to about my ex, just because, again, I knew him so well for so long in my more formative years. So I have a better memory of him. Um, but let's go back to our original video. I want to watch just a little bit more of Court and Crime's video, and then we'll call it a night for tonight. Um, I apologize. I had to cough again. Um, we'll watch a little bit more of Court and Crime's video, and then we'll call it a night. I have spent almost my usual amount of time on here. When I get off, I'm gonna definitely get some rest. But thank you all who have joined me today. I really appreciate it. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I appreciate everybody who participated in the poll so far. I did take that down for now. I appreciate everybody who hopped on to watch the press conference with me. And thank you all for your likes, your support. It really means a lot to me. I truly can't wait to start bringing some of the documents from this case. I'm really excited I know I will probably hear something by the end of this week about the FOIA. Um, but I'm just really excited. I know that they're going to be closed until Wednesday. Um, but it's super exciting. I'm also looking forward to getting the Nicole Verzi stuff, which I know I'm definitely not getting until at least the end of the week, possibly the beginning of next week. Um, because a a lot of stuff was closed today because of the political rallies. Now, granted, the courthouse was not closed. My husband and I had to go down there today for some paperwork, um, so that I can change over my driver's license from my maiden name to my married name. Um, and yeah, so let's do some more of the video, and then we'll close out for the night. I'll find a logical stopping point. I might finish out day 4, or go to day 6. We'll see.
In the end, it's tragic to think that a man who worked so hard for his family, who by this point were all adults, ended up discarded like trash, burned in a fire. As we await further testimony, I can't help but wonder, was Gary just a financial provider to his family? Did any of his children truly support him emotionally? Now, we'd love to hear from you. Do you think Scott's response to his father was justified, or do you agree that it was selfish? How much of the blame for Gary's struggles should be placed on his children's lack of emotional support? Do you think it's common for parents to feel like they've given everything, only to receive little in return from their adult children?
Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
This game, you're not ready for it.
Police officer I talked to, he said that Melody filed a report that I threatened to kill her just like how I did my daddy. And we were working on the project between the house and the pond, the big stone walls and everything. And I remember I was either planting some plants or doing mulch or something. My dad was on the other side of the property, and she came out of my dad's office doors and screaming and cussing, and she threw a plate up against the wall of the house, and she screamed, "I can't wait till the day he fucking dies. I can't wait till the day I don't have to live with him anymore."
Do you know what she was upset about, or?
If I remember right, him leaving the plate in the home theater room. And it was probably a plate that he probably had some kind of dessert, key lime pie on. So he would occasionally leave a Mountain Dew can or a plate in the home theater. And her being, I mean, she cleaned a lot. She liked to keep a clean house. So stuff like that.
So how mad was she when she did this?
Like I said, she came out yelling and cussing and threw it as hard as she could up against the wall, and it shattered into several pieces. I mean, she always, talked bad about my dad. It's like she always tried to brainwash us, like he was, such a horrible person. Oh yeah, I mean, once we found out that, there was a bullet found in the rib bone that, obviously he's been shot and then burned, and we all put the pieces together because my dad had no enemies. I never once met anybody in my entire life that hated my dad. So we knew somebody, wouldn't have come there. The house wasn't wrecked. I mean, there was nothing. Everything was adding up to us that it wasn't a robbery, and it wasn't anything like that. And, her history of, having affairs and doing all this shady stuff that she's done, and especially her making the comment, "I can't wait for the day he's dead and I don't have to live with him anymore."
Did Amanda support your mom or support y'all?
So I remember for several weeks, it seemed like, Amanda kept saying, "Well, he just had a heart attack and fell in the fire." And I was like, "Amanda, how could he have had a heart attack and fell in the fire when, A, they found a bullet lodged in his rib bone?" And she's like, "Well, they could be lying to us." I was like, "Okay, well, if he had a heart attack and fell in the fire, why was everything gone from the fire pit?" It's like the RTV would have been there, or the tractor would have been there. There would have been something. There was no indication to, especially to me, that he would have had a heart attack and fell into the fire.
So Amanda was not convinced?
She was not convinced on him being shot.
Was she supportive of your mother?
Oh yes, I mean, like I said, she was always glued to her side from the time I showed up over to the house, and even after. and she was always with her.
Now, afterwards, the property, the house, and the contents of the house and things like that. Fair to say that your mother and you and things were having some problems, some arguments over the disagreements, if you would, over the property in the house and trying to sell it and whatnot.
Afterwards, yes, man. It was. She immediately after this was all about trying to get as much money as possible.
Was Amanda being a go-between between you and the defendant at times?
If I remember right, yeah, she was very much involved, and all of us. I remember all of us getting, hit up about getting, having money handed over to her or something along those lines.
When you and your mom afterwards were trying to figure out what to do with the house, because I guess it went into the probate part, all the property basically was frozen. Is that right?
Yes, everything from. It seemed like the day of the 5th, they froze everything.
So the accounts and things like that?
Yes.
But on the 5th, was your mom going around asking who was on the bank accounts and stuff like that?
No, she was actually asking those questions before finding my dad. That was another, like I said, her behavior. She kept asking all of us, do you have access to the bank account?
At the scene while you're trying to find your dad?
Yes, this is like us trying to figure out where he could be.
The video clips we just saw from days 4 and 5 of the Melody Farris trial were intense. Scott Farris, the son of Gary and Melody, took the stand, and it's fair to say he didn't paint his mother in a positive light. From his testimony, Melody seems far from the ideal spouse or mother. What strikes me most is the fact that she has been involved in multiple affairs. I can't help but ask myself, who would want to be with a woman like that? It must have been an absolute nightmare to be married to someone with her temperament and behavior. But here's the thing, there's always the possibility that Scott, along with his brother Chris, are lying. Maybe they've decided to conspire against their mother.
Okay, so I just want to say that I don't necessarily think that they're lying. I feel that they are potentially exaggerating some of the facts, but I don't really feel like they're lying. My husband is always shocked when I sit here and I'm like, oh yeah, this happened today, and then um, you know, sometimes a couple months later, the almost exact same thing happens yet again, and he's just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Um, so yeah, but like, I feel like Gary, or not Gary, I feel like Scott and Chris and Emily, um, very much exaggerated some of what happened in that household. Um, I'm not saying that they're exaggerating significantly. I'm just saying I feel that some of it is potentially an exaggeration. Um, but I very well could be wrong. I was not there. Um, maybe things were as bad as they say that they were. And maybe the problems that they are facing as a family were significantly more blatantly obvious um, than what they're even describing. Maybe they're under uh, stating the facts. You don't know. The only way that you would know is if you were a fly on the wall, and I really don't believe that any of us happen to be a fly on the wall. But I am going to leave this here for tonight and hop off. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful rest of your evening. I will be on tomorrow. Um, after my husband brings me home from voting, or after my husband and I are done with our family time, um, the civil unrest that they're expecting has me kind of nervous. Again, anxiety. Yay. So even if we do family night, at my in-laws, even if we do family night at my in-laws, tomorrow, my husband will be bringing me home at a reasonable time. So 5 o'clock tomorrow would be the latest, that I would be hopping on. Maybe 5:30.